Hi, I'm Dr. Woody. I'm here with Ben Lerer, founder and CEO of Thrillist Media Group, and we're at the EY Annual Strategic Growth Forum in sunny, beautiful Palm Springs. So, Ben, welcome.
Thank you. It is so sunny.
It's very sunny,
yes.
and that's what we want here, to shed some light on some interesting things and find out some stuff about you.
Yep.
So, tell me a little bit about where your first venture came from and how you decided to make that leap in going into the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah. So, so my first venture is still my current venture, which is Thrillist, and the original concept for Thrillist actually came from sort of a need that I had as a young guy living in New York City. I felt that the city guides that I was reading sort of were missing something. Unfortunately, my mother and I were supposed to read the same city guide, and I felt that there was a disconnect there, and was really inspired by the trusted voices that men's magazines had, but felt that I needed to sort of bridge the gap and create a city guide that spoke my language.
And so in making that jump, I mean, what is it about your background and where you came from and what you've learned that gave you the confidence to make that leap into an entrepreneurial venture and going it your own? Because not everyone can do that.
No, I think it's very hard to do, and I think so. A few things. One is I don't think I necessarily understood how hard it was to do that.
Right.
When I first,
less knowledge is better than.
Absolutely. I really do believe that ignorance is bliss in a lot of situations, and for me. I don't think I understood what I was getting myself into. I'm very happy I got myself into it, but it really is. It's tough, and good days are great, but bad days are really terrible. And I think I don't necessarily. I didn't understand that. I think as far as actually what pushed me into it, my father was an entrepreneur when I grew up, and always had his own business, and I think I just assumed that was like. That was the way that everybody.
It was a norm.
lived.
It was a norm and
totally,
standard for you. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. And how's the transition then been from being the idea guy, the entrepreneur, the problem solver, to now being a business leader? Because you have so many different ventures, like Jack Threads, right, and the
investing stuff.
The investing stuff with your dad. So how did that transition go from having to lead people and do it through others versus doing it yourself?
So I think. I try to actually still be sort of the idea guy in a lot of situations, and that has to do with building great infrastructure and surrounding myself with awesome team leaders and awesome people within the business. And so, I'm not necessarily mired in every little detail of operating the business. I still get to go and be creative and sort of think about what's next.
Okay.
And I'm only able to do that because of the quality of the team and everyone who's sort of at TMG. I think that as far as sort of managing a team and what that means, and that's something that's a work in progress, and I'm still learning to do it. And one of the best things that I've done is, again, having to do with other people we've brought in over the last year or two. Brought in a few sort of senior executives. And I know that like sounds sort of like bad, or at least I associate that as sounding bad, but brought in a few people who have done this before, and I think not necessarily that they have all the answers for how to grow our business, but that they just have some experience with managing larger teams and operationalizing larger teams and creating some process. I mean, we want it to be a very fluid sort of entrepreneurial culture, but we have benefited a lot from bringing people in that have been a part of larger organizations.
When did you get to that point where you had to stop and say, you know what, I need to get some professional management, what you're saying, to help complement some of the things that you maybe didn't
I think we've
want
gotten to that point multiple times. So I think there was a time probably when we were, approaching 50 people where things started to break down. And then again, and we thought we had solved it and we had all the infrastructure we would ever need, and then a year later we were at 100 people or 125 people or whatever it was, and realized that there was not necessarily another layer of management that was necessary, but another layer of just a way of sort of thinking about accountability within the organization and making sure that everybody understood what we were working on. And actually, what our goal now is as the company continues to get bigger, to try and make it feel smaller. And so transparency is the number one way to do that as far as I'm concerned. And so we're getting better at sort of institutionalizing knowledge sharing in a way that everybody, from the newest hire on in the customer service team to the most senior hire running a huge group, understand sort of where they fit into the org and into the whole sort of strategy of what we're building.
Well, and that notion of institutionalizing that which you originally would take for granted, right? Because it's just a few people. Was that tough? A tough thing to grapple with, because like you said, you want that feel of small.
It's
but it
tough,
grows.
and it's still tough. I do think that we actually got to a point probably about a year and a half ago. We were about 150 people, and it was really tough. It was very, very hard. It was, we were at I think everything sort of ebbs and flows, but we were at a particularly stressful point in the business, and we were figuring out what we sort of wanted to be when we grew up. And
right.
it was really, started to feel like a big company, and I think there were people who had been around early that felt a little put off and a little out of place, and sort of that it wasn't what it had been. And I actually think we've done a really good job in the last year growing from 150 to 275, and actually making it feel smaller, and losing some of that sort of big company feel, and having it just be more fun.
And so then what advice would you have for any young entrepreneurs who are looking to scale
Yeah.
and build to that next level and go through what you've gone
Well, I
through?
think the best advice is not necessarily sort of operational strategic advice.
Right,
it's more, it's a little bit more sort of fluffy emotional advice. But
Well, you're
I think,
talking to a psychologist,
right,
so I'm
exactly.
totally fine with it. Yeah,
totally.
go
So
with it.
I think it's just to try to continually have fun with what you're doing. And for us, when you grow, you keep setting a goal in the future and an expectation, and if you're successful, you meet that goal. And what immediately happens is you reset expectations, and suddenly what was the dream is now unacceptable because the dream has moved to some other place. Right. And that's a great way to build a business, but you just have to be delicate, because you don't want to make people or yourself feel like you're losing after you've already achieved so much. And so that balance of making sure that you're sort of stopping to smell the roses and just enjoying the successes that you are having is really important to be able to. It's an important part of making sure that you're able to actually achieve that next level of success.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for stopping by. It was great chatting.
Thank you for having me.
Some cool advice.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.